So production was a whole other beast in itself. Going into production, you really have no time to sleep. You should definitely, be as healthy as you can on day one because your health is just gonna decline from that day on. It was just nonstop going from these extreme desert abandoned places, creepy, old, mental facility where you do not want to be at night.
We only had 15 days to make this movie, and everyone knew that they had to be on top of their game, and there was a level of concentration that was on the set. It was almost as if you can hear a pin drop because everyone was so focused.
Okay, go. We're good. Okay, and here we go. And
Angle a little bit so it's a glimpse, Michael.
okay, and
There you go.
action.
Makeup's clear.
And action.
The first day, I was really, really nervous. I knew that we only had enough budget to film for 15 days. We had to be on schedule and try not to fall behind. We started shooting, and our first location was this old medical hospital.
And we thought at that time that it would be really cheap if we did the film in the desert because, we could just go there and shoot not knowing anything about location permits or anything.
It seemed like a good idea to us at the time. Our schedule ended up getting pushed back till late January, and this is when it started to rain.
So there were many times in which, we couldn't shoot a scene.
Us having to go up against Mother Nature,
We were constantly battling the weather, running away from the clouds.
It was just Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
The machine that was pulling the car broke down, and we couldn't get all the coverage that we needed during the car scenes.
we were working as fast as we could.
Our production trucks got flat tires.
Tow truck way out in town, which was like 3 hours away.
The weather was freezing, and
And even at one point, it hailed on us.
I had a scene where Dryden would point at the sun and say, look at the sun, and there was no sun out.
And the fact that we got out of it alive just amazes me.
Ideally, you want to have everything planned from the beginning, but one thing that you do learn is how to adapt. The changes that we made, even though they were made in very pressuresome circumstances, I think they created a very different but also very pleasing outcome. When I think about the most beautiful times filmmaking, it was those very serene moments when you could look out and see the pinnacles and you could see the moon against like a purplish bluish sky. It was waking up really early in the morning before anyone else was awake, and you see the sun rising.
Everyone knew going into this how hard this production was going to be, and it became even harder when our schedules started to get jumbled up. We would have to travel to the desert a lot sooner than we would normally have to. Everyone was on top of their game. They would work non-stop with the kind of endurance and joy for cinema, I think really comes across in the film itself. There were two vehicles that were used that I spent a lot of time looking for, and one of them was the 1969 Alfa Romeo. They're pretty rare and they're hard to find, and I had to get somebody to custom design the interior, the color, so that it would match the feel and the look of the film.
we found this old, real World War II Renault truck from France. And I had to learn how to drive it within 10 minutes right before the scene.
It was so old and so different. It looked like an alien spaceship to someone who's never driven a stick shift before.
Right when they said action, I pressed on the gas pedal and I was going. I kept going faster and faster because the AD kept saying, faster, faster. I wanted to catch the truck coming in at the perfect site. This car is probably safe to drive around 10 miles per hour. I don't know how fast I was going, but I really felt like I was flying. The whole crew was holding their breath because I was heading straight for the camera. The cinematographer, sound guy, the whole crew would be run over if I didn't stop at the right point. Luckily, I made it through and I stopped. I think at that point, everybody let go of their breath. A lot of the fight scenes that we filmed was actually shot at a really old meat factory. It was owned by Crazy Gideon.
Sometimes I would look over to my left and then I would see Vivian running around faxing papers, and I would see my cinematographer with a migraine headache. I would look to Arle, and she would either be on the phone negotiating deals or setting up costumes. My production designer would be over at the next set, dressing and setting up. And she knew that if she didn't make it, then our next day of shooting would be ruined. My assistant director would constantly be watching the clock, making sure that we were on time. And then when I look at the actors, you could tell they were completely freaked out because they only had one take to deliver a perfect performance.
Oh, that's funny. You think that's funny?
Now.
I spent a lot of time with the actors and a lot of time with my cinematographer and how I wanted to depict this film. When it came time, we would just do one take and we would get out of there as fast as we can. And the preparation had a lot to do with it.